college football playoff on hold. It's Rivalry Saturday. Today doesn't matter what place you're in, whether you're a Boilermaker or a Hoosier, a Bulldog or a Rebel. There's only one goal: beat your rival and beat them good. Michigan and Ohio State are already underway. We focus our day on the Iron Bowl and the dislike known as Auburn and Alabama. From coast to coast today, it's okay to hate your football rival. Our Jeep Special starts now. Welcome to this CBS College Football Special presented by Jeep. Coming up at 3 Eastern, it's AutoTrader College Football Today, followed by the Iron Bowl, number 13 Auburn, and number 1 Alabama. Over on CBS Sports Network, it's UCF and USF right now, the war on I-4, followed by San Jose State and Fresno State. Now, there is no drama determining who will represent the SEC in the postseason like in the other conferences, but there are bitter rivalries, and we have the granddaddy of them all today in the Iron Bowl between Auburn and Alabama. And there is no longer drama surrounding who will be the next coach at LSU. About 90 minutes ago, they made it official, removing the interim tag from Ed Orgeron's job description. Joining me are Rick Neuheisel and Brian Jones. Coaching carousel spinning. Your thoughts on the news out of Baton Rouge?
Well, very happy for Ed Orgeron. Who would have thought he was going to get another chance after what took place at Ole Miss? But great jobs in interim roles at both USC and now LSU. Give him a chance. He's a loyal son of Louisiana. We know he can recruit. He's going to be physical.
They speak his language. They understand him. Sometimes we struggle to do that, but whether you're the first choice or the second choice, it doesn't matter. He has the gig now, and let's see what he can do with it. First thing, go get a quarterback.
And we'll get to hear from him in a bit. Also, Charlie Strong was officially let go by the Longhorns earlier today. Multiple reports have Tom Herman being named the Longhorns' new head coach by day's end. We'll have more on Texas and LSU momentarily. But as for our game, Alabama is led by the unflappable Jalen Hurts. The freshman quarterback never seems to get shaken. Even when he makes a mistake, Rick fumbles a lot.
He is an unbelievable player. And if we just talk numbers, 19-7 as a true freshman. That's his touchdowns to interception ratio. That's outstanding. He's on course to be a 1,000-yard rusher with over 800 yards right now. But his magic is his, you just mentioned, unflappable. He just doesn't get rattled. And when you have that demeanor, you have an opportunity to continue to learn. He'll be magic before he's done with the Tide.
That is true. And what Auburn has to do, they got to force him into some mistakes. You just referenced the fumbles, the interceptions. He has to get some turnovers, or Auburn has to get some turnovers. Alabama, 17 turnovers on the season, but they're the 6th best in conference in limiting what their opponents do with those turnovers. They've only allowed 28 points on turnovers all season long. You look at the Auburn Tigers, they're +3 in turnover margin, as Alabama is, but they've got to force Bama into some mistakes.
Yeah. Over those. Auburn, meanwhile, is a banged-up team with question marks about quarterback Sean White and running back Cam Petway. With more on that, Allie LaForce spoke with Gus Malzahn earlier.
Coach, let's start with the quarterback position. You told us yesterday that all 3 practiced this week, but you hadn't named a starter. What's the update as we're now 2 hours from kickoff?
We're going to start Jeremy Johnson. He's had a great week of practice. He played very well last week. Sean White's not 100%. He's capable of playing, but he's not 100%. And then John Franklin also have a role.
Okay, thanks, Coach. And as you look at this game and you put the emotion, you put the hype aside, when it comes to the X's and O's, where do you really feel your team can have an edge in this game?
Well, we got to run the football on offense, and they're very good, against the run. And then we got to stop the run. We got to contain the quarterback. It's as simple as that, and it ought to be a good one.
How much can we expect to see Cam Petway?
Cam Petway will be out there. He'll play. He's not 100%, but this is a big game for him, and his not 100% is better than some 100%. So we're glad he's out there with us.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck.
All right, thanks.
Wow, so Jeremy Johnson gets the spot.
He's back.
10 for 23 was a year ago, which, by the way, was the last time he started
in the Iron Bowl.
But given what Sean White did against Georgia, 2 of 13 in a second half, you've got to do this. And this is a model of perseverance right here. This kid stayed in there. He's a pretty darn good passer. He's not a real run threat. So running the football will be all on Cam Petway.
And he has to make good decisions. 1 interception on the season, but it's going to be about that running game.
Yeah.
And whether Petway is 100% or not, can he get it done?
Petway had over 400 yards in games against Arkansas and Ole Miss. Is he healthy? The muscle pull, is he at full strength? That'll be a key to
Well, Alabama's defense will test that muscle pull and maybe pull a few muscles while they're testing the one that's already hurt. But can they win in the ditches? Can they own the line of scrimmage? What does Auburn do best? They run the rock. You're going up against the nation's #1 rush defense, and you got the #1 rush offense there in conference in Auburn. So they've got to convert on third downs as well. 44% leading the conference right now, and they've only given up 18 sacks. So they will be tested up front all afternoon.
Most rushing yards per game of any Power 5 team, and last week it was Cam Martin. A lot of Cams at Auburn.
Yeah.
All right, back to the big news of the day. Ed Orgeron, formally introduced this afternoon by Athletic Director Joe Oliva as LSU's head coach.
It's my pleasure to announce to you the next head coach at LSU, permanent head coach, Ed Orgeron.
What's it mean to Louisiana and winning championships? My goal is to build a championship program fast, very fast. And I understand the expectations of LSU, and I invite them because I have the same expectations of myself and my staff.
Love that voice. The players voiced their support, chanting "Keep Coach O" following Thursday's win against Texas A&M. They're 5-2 since he took over, and now he has to try to put a staff together as well.
If Jambalaya had a voice, that would be it right there. Listen. This is all about, can he find an offense?
Right.
I mean, we know they can play great defense at LSU. Just go back a few weeks ago in that barn burner with the Tide. This is all about, can he find a guy? And the guy on the street right now, everybody's talking about, at least in Baton Rouge, is Lane Kiffin.
Coming in.
Absolutely. They've worked together a lot of places, Tennessee and USC.
Well, you're right. The young men in the locker room were clamoring for him to get the job, much like they were last year for Les Miles to keep his job. So now they have what they want. Now can we show up this offense? You're right. Dynamite players on the defensive side of the ball, everywhere across the board except for under center.
All right, he's also got to try to keep Dave Aranda, their defensive coordinator. He might be looking around. There is another game going on right now that will have a huge impact on the college football playoff. We'll update you on everything happening around the country when we return. This CBS College Football Special, presented by Jeep, is sponsored by the new 2017 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Jeep, free to be. Taco Bell, sometimes you gotta live Moss. And by AT&T. The CBS College Football Special presented by Jeep. We got to go to the scoreboard starting in Columbus. Perhaps a playoff elimination game. Oh, it's the new 10-year war. And Harbaugh and the khaki pants, they're kicking Columbus right now, BJ.
Wilton Spade was kicking himself after this pass to the wrong color jersey. Malik Hooker, third pick 6 on the season. He's the career leader there at Ohio State. Single season leader as well. But Spade would come back and redeem himself. Khalid, not DJ Khaled. That's Khalid Hill with the score right there for the Wolverines.
And that came after an ill-advised fake punt. Michigan would win the Big Ten East if they can do this in Columbus. Ohio State needs to come back and then have Penn State lose later today in order to go to the Big Ten championship game. All right, meanwhile, Louisville trying to bounce back from that loss to Houston. And our Heisman frontrunner Lamar Jackson, they're in a battle though, Rick.
You're exactly right. They're trying to get to a New Year's Day bowl game, but here's our guy, Jackson. He hits an 18-yard touchdown pass to Reggie Bonifant right there. Kentucky playing great in this game. Benny Snell takes the direct snap, finds a hole into the end zone, 18 yards there. Here's Jeremy Smith running hard for a 3-yard touchdown, 31-31 right now. Jackson, 12 of 18 for 236, 2 touchdowns, and 15 carries for 117. He's in the Cam Newton 30-20 club.
That's right. Mark Stoops trying to get his first win over Louisville, whose defense has disappeared here down the stretch. Big performance from Kentucky. Georgia trying to do its part in the SEC, ACC Invitational, BJ.
It's about offense and running the rock. That's what the Bulldogs do best. Sonny Michel here, 10 yards for the score. But the Yellow Jackets come back. Marcus Marshall, 4 yards for his touchdown. And here come the Dogs again. Nick Chubb, 3-yard score. And the Dogs, they on top.
And they are. Georgia Tech was up 14-7 in this game. Kirby Smart paid a lot of attention to that offense, even in the offseason, to try to get Georgia primed for this one. More in-state hate. Virginia Tech, they already got the Coastal clinched, Rick, and Sam Rogers doing it right on Senior Day, also honoring the number 25 for Frank Beamer.
Looks like 25 is a lucky number for him. He's taking this for an 8-yard touchdown against the Wahoos. He does it again right here. This is 32 yards for Pater. Sam Rogers didn't give him that number back. The Coastal Division champs will face Clemson next week in Orlando for the crown.
And we'll see if the Hokies can really disrupt the playoff picture when they do. But right now, putting a sour into Bronco Mendenhall's first year at Virginia, 45-3, late in the third quarter. Then you got the war on I-4 right now on CBS Sports Network, BJ.
Marlon Mack, what is he doing with the ball here, Rick? He's going to hold it out there as if there's no defenders there. Put it out there again, one more time. There you go. Now you can showboat a little bit. Nice run there by Mack. But you got to take care of that loaf of bread, man.
They got to take care of this lead. It's 7. They need the win and a loss tonight by Temple in order to take the American East Division. All right, more in-state fun and Northwestern with an edge. Kansas State as well.
Oh, you can beat Kansas.
On the road on top. All right, next Saturday at 4 Eastern on CBS, it will be number 1 Alabama and number 15 Florida in Atlanta facing off in the SEC championship game, just like last year. But these Gators, no one knows what to expect out of them anymore.
Well, they're playing really good offense right now. Austin Appleby's given him a little shot in the arm. He's got 3 touchdown passes since coming in. He had that big play against LSU. And Jordan Scarlett has run for over 100 yards in each of their last 2 ball games. If they bring offense also to Atlanta, along with what we know is a good defense, they'll be in the game.
Defense is willing, and they're capable of holding their own versus Alabama, I believe, especially with those corners they have out there. But it's the offense. Can they bring something to the table? Appleby, I love the way Doug Nussmeier, the offensive coordinator, is rolling him around, boots, waggles, get him moving.
Yeah, big win over LSU. Now, as far as Alabama, when it comes to the college football playoff, they're the only undefeated Power 5 team. Some say, you know what, Alabama, they can afford a loss here.
Don't tell Nick Saban he has a mulligan. He's not interested in that. You saw how mad he was after the first half last week against Chattanooga. He was getting ready to bite somebody in the backside in that locker room. Listen, this game's too important to both teams in the state of Alabama. His team will be ready.
Yeah, exactly. They have to be ready. Anytime you're talking about a rivalry game, you don't care what your record is, you want to get a W.
Now, no one was talking about Florida. They only got up to number 15 in the rankings. They wanted LSU. If they beat Florida State tonight, if they somehow beat Alabama, are they in the playoff?
You'd have to say they would be if the committee is on a most deserving train. But if they're doing the eye test, I don't know if they make it. I think they should be in if they
get
run
your eyes checked in. It's big important because, yes, you run the gamut by beating Florida State and you also knock off Bama in the SEC championship game, you're in.
Still a decimated defense as well. We'll discuss more about the playoff coming up later. The coaching carousel is spinning. Ed Orgeron's been named the head coach at LSU. When we come back, we'll sort through the mess the Charlie Strong situation became, and these guys will tell you which other coaches they think will or won't be at their current schools come next season. Welcome back, everyone, to this CBS College Football Special presented by Jeep. Some scores to catch you up on. Mike Weber going in from short distance. Ohio State now within 3 at home against Michigan and Kentucky. Back and forth with Louisville. Now they're on top. Dorian Baker on the receiving end here. Louisville's defense in absentia. And this is in Louisville. Kentucky on top 38-31 as they play in the fourth quarter right now. All right, a short time ago, LSU named Ed Orgeron as its head coach, dropping the interim tag. And earlier in the day, Texas parted ways with Charlie Strong. So there's Ed. He's the man now in Baton Rouge. Now, the loss to TCU yesterday, the Longhorns ended up with another losing season, 3 straight losing seasons under Charlie Strong. And that's why Ed Orgeron is keeping his job, and Charlie Strong is now going to look for a new one. Multiple reports have Tom Herman being named the Longhorns' new head coach by the end of the day. So Texas, in the end, it looks like they're going to get their man, but this process has been a travesty.
Well, yeah, it has, but in credit to Mike Perrin, the AD there in Texas. He said all along, we're going to evaluate Coach after the season. And you had leaks from other parts of the Longhorn family. But I feel horribly for Coach Strong. He had to once again overhaul this roster, and he had a ton of young folks out there on the field these last couple of years. Didn't have a quarterback to speak of until this season. But he'll land on his feet. He's one heck of a football coach. So Tom Herman looks like he's going to be the man. Of course, he has a history there at UT. He was a GA for a couple of years.
Everything's bigger in Texas except patience, right? The misfortune for Charlie Strong is that his 3-year run at Texas also coincided with the 3-year college football playoff. And when Texas is not mentioned in the college football playoff in those 3 years, people are going to wane for getting back to relevance, and that's exactly what took place.
And they wanted to give him a chance. The players loved him. The loss at Kansas, and then yesterday, again, it is the end for Charlie Strong. Now, the events this week by Texas have reignited that coaching carousel discussion, and we got a bunch of coaches on here whose names have been out there as far as maybe getting canned, maybe moving on by their own choice, and the guys are voting on who they think we'll be seeing in September at their current schools next season.
Well, Brian Kelly's not had a great year at Notre Dame, but I think he's fine. I think that's the same case with Dan Mullen at Mississippi State. They've got a chance in the Egg Bowl to get some happiness back there in Starkville. And Helfrich, I've got it both ways here. I think they've got to win the Civil War. I think he's got to win. BJ.
I agree. He has to win. I don't believe he does. I think Oregon State gets him tonight. Tommy Tuberville, whether he's slapping the headsets off of GAs at Texas Tech or yelling at hecklers, go get a job, he's going to need a job. Cliff Kingsbury, defense is optional in my hometown of Lubbock, Texas. They love the offensive prowess of him. And Rich tried to win last night versus the arch rival Arizona State, even though both teams are having a down year.
Yeah, Miss Arizona actually made the best tackle of all.
Oh, yes, he did.
That one.
I want to make that tackle.
There are other names here. Now, these are the guys who you think might get a good gig, and we've mentioned Tom Herman, but take it away.
That might be gone. Didn't go. Larry Fedora, I think, is very happy at North Carolina. It didn't end well, but I think he's good. Chad Morris, I think, is gone. All reports have him taking the Baylor job. Yeah. That leaves SMU open. Some big names over there, BJ.
Yeah, Willie Taggart, I'm not sure where he's going to go, but he's done a great job there at USF. And Lane Kiffin, we've discussed, he's probably on the radar of LSU as their new offensive coordinator. PJ Fleck, he's got to go to that Purdue job, right?
I think that's wants. Otherwise, remember, Les Miles is being rumored big time there.
You got to pick me. You can't have both.
I choose both.
You have a couple of hanging chads.
Only in your world, right?
There's the Chad right there.
Yeah, well, he might not be hanging very long. If Waco calls, that's where he'll likely go. All right, when we come back here, Rick and BJ with a holiday-themed look at what they liked and what they didn't this football season. Time now for Upon Further Review. We start with the things that the guys are thankful for this college football season.
We've got a lot to be thankful for, Adam. Here's what I want to point out. How about patient athletic directors? All you got to look at Colorado. They won 2 conference games in the first 3 years, and look what's happened there in Boulder, Colorado. How about Nick Saban? This guy's a genius. He's ahead of his time. Everybody learns from him. I promise you. How about Week 11 meltdown? 2, 3, and 4 all lose. The unpredictable nature of college football. We love that 4 teams are going to get a chance for a championship. This is all good stuff. And hey, listen, when you remember this guy?
Sure.
Yep. Bo Paskey, he remembers. I remember. This is a perfect example for what we all should do.
Crying.
Everybody still wants to sit with him. Is that right? Yes, they do. Hey, my number 5, Washington Penn State, relevant again. Big box brand names in college football. That's outstanding. Glad they're back on the scene. Late game theatrics. We had Pitt at Clemson. We had UNC in Pitt. I mean, it's been great. Iowa and Michigan. Love that defense. 4 of the top 5 ranked teams have top 5 defenses in scoring. That's exceptional. Defense still wins championship. And the continued talk of expanding the playoff from 6 to 8. You got 4 or 5 teams right there with 2 losses who are going to get in this team.
That's just you talking about
That's
that.
me. You're right. Hey, all around New York, you see signs that read, see something or say something if you see something. And this guy did something. Florida's Christian Garcia stopped a sexual assault there in Gainesville. Outstanding by him.
All right, now we're moving on to the guys' turkeys from this college football season. You were looking for some turkey.
I'll take some more turkey right now. Some giblet gravy, Target. Don't get me started on this, please. Not again. I don't want to get in trouble in the Twitterverse, right? They need to get that controlled. The committee, their rationale from week to week, I don't understand their logic. What's a detriment to certain teams is not to other teams. And the length of games, on average, the games are 3.5 hours, and that's up a tick from 4 years ago. So we need to get a handle on that. Quit all that reviewing. I tell Texas Longhorn. That'd make you throw up your turkey.
They're not number one?
No, they should be. National championship pick. That other UT, right? Yeah. Tennessee Volunteers. I'm sorry I jinxed you this year.
Yeah, it wasn't such a bad pick. How about these right here? How about the Big 12 just rejecting everybody publicly? Do that in your own time. Keep that to yourself. How about Rutgers offense? Last in all yards, 4 times shutout. You can do better, though. How about LSU Florida squabble? Enough competition in the SEC to have this going on.
I liked it.
They should have solved that quietly. Playoff decision process, just tell us what train we're on. Or is it deserving? Is it just best team?
Right.
That's what we all want to know. And last but not least, Baylor.
Yeah.
Transparency, please. Just come out, tell us everything that happened. Let's get the healing process started for all.
All right, we'll see. And as Chad Morris perhaps is the guy to take over that, how he handles everything that will come.
Yeah, it was a sordid situation there, and they needed to handle that and come out and just, as you said, have a nice cleansing, and let's move forward from here.
All right.
It took too much of our, distracted the season too much. It's time to move on.
All right. Well, we are moving on as well, and as everyone enjoys the real turkey. But as for our game today, the Iron Bowl has had its legends. In 2010, Philip Lutzenkirchen caught the winning touchdown for Auburn that capped a 24-point comeback and preserved the Tigers' national championship dream season. But the cheering didn't last forever. Philip was killed in a car accident 2 years ago. That's when the Lutzenkirchen family started a foundation in his memory. Its purpose is to mentor young adults to live like Lutz, love like Lutz, and learn from Lutz.
That's Philip. I mean, 43 is Philip, and that's what I think of every time I see the number.
My dad was like, had written all these words on a spreadsheet and was like, we got to do something with these words, and we were brainstorming, and the curriculum came up.
The curriculum is really the basis. I mean, this is a character development curriculum. 43 seems to be about the right number. The authorship and the work and the pride and the heart that these people put into these days, I think they understand the big picture of what we're trying to do.
It's just such a great idea that Mike sort of got a lot of people to write about something that may be a lesson, you know, to some young person. I wrote mine about discipline. Hopefully this will help somebody out there.
What Mike's doing with the leadership of the foundation, making a difference, you know, in people's lives. I mean, that's what life's about, and so I'm honored to be sharing a part of that.
Mike and Mary have taken something that was a very tragic thing in their life, losing a son, and turned it into something that can be inspirational.
He epitomizes what the institution stands for. It's a wonderful, wonderful story with a tragic ending. Hopefully something good can come out of the tragic ending.
Any program that can bring together both Auburn and Alabama to teach the importance of leadership and community service to the next generation and not make the same mistakes that cost Philip his life, certainly worth listening to. And his father, Mike, has been very brave, reaching out to so many young men.
Coaching these kids, you realize how much they think they're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Right. And you love that enthusiasm, but you've got to still be a great decision maker, and this is certainly a great step in that regard.
That's a great point, Rick. We all think we're invincible when we're out there, and we've all padded up, and you're running into each other, but once you step off that field, you're just as vulnerable as anyone else.
Yeah, he was a cult hero.
He was. We enjoyed talking about him on our highlight show over on the Sports Network all the time.
Yeah, especially that big Iron Bowl moment.
Yeah.
Time to step aside for a few moments here. AutoTrader College Football Today is coming your way after this message and a word from your local station.
The Bengals collide with their division rivals, the Ravens. Then Cam leads the Panthers into battle against the Red Hot Raiders on doubleheader Sunday on CBS.
This is one of the greatest rivalry games in the country.
You can just tell that like this game is just different from anyone.
We want it real bad. I know they want it bad. Both teams are going to come out and compete.
This game right here is for the season, and it's also for the bragging rights for the next 365.
They're going to give us their best game. We're going to give them our best game. It's just one of those reasons why you come to Alabama.
Overall, a very solid team. Not a whole lot of weaknesses that make you earn it. For us to be successful, we're going to have to run the football and be able to run the football effectively. they're very talented. They're always one of the most talented, if not the most talented team in the country. And I think this year is really close to the same.
You know, this is huge to our state and to our fan base, and you know, it's a huge game for us. So you know, we have to bring our best and you know, go and compete.
He's got room to run. Touchdown! Punctuation mark. Goes deep, wide open. Oh, my goodness. How do you like that? All right, everybody. Hello, I'm Adam Zucker, and welcome to AutoTrader College Football today. Coming up next, number 13 Auburn and number 1 Alabama. And right now, over on CBS Sports Network, UCF and USF. All kinds of in-state fun. That's followed by San Jose State and Fresno State. All right, today, the Iron Bowl has nothing on the line except for everything. Bragging rights for the next 364 days under similar roofs, on the same streets even. Alabama's playoff hopes probably could absorb a loss, but neither team wants to lose the recruiting edge that comes along with a win. I continue to be joined by Rick Neuheisel and Brian Jones, which I'm very happy about, but there are people next to each other across Alabama who aren't looking at each other today.
This just in. Football's big in Alabama, all right? Everybody in the state, whether you're wearing shoulder pads or not, has a vested interest in this one. They will be anxiously awaiting the outcome.
Well, the pregame speech is pretty simple for you coaches in these rivalry games. It's, men, I can't tell you to go out there and kill them, but I can tell you to go out there and make them wish they were dead.
Ah, well, kickoff is on the way. The big question entering this game is, can an ailing Auburn squad limp into Tuscaloosa and do enough to slay the giant? As we take a look at both teams warming up now live in our eye test. What do you see here, BJ? Bama coming in on a 23-game winning streak.
Yes, they are. I tell you what, this Auburn Tigers defense is not limping into this one, and that's been the key to their success all season long. They have stayed healthy. You look at Lawson at that defensive end, Adams in the middle of that defense on the defensive line. These guys have been healthy. That's why they're playing some of the best defense they've played there on the Plains since 2008. Kevin Steele, new defensive coordinator, has done a fabulous job with his Chargers.
Kevin Steele, a former assistant for Nick Saban at Alabama, you're right, 6th in the country in scoring defense. But on the other side, Alabama's number 2 in the country in scoring defense. They have a phenomenal front. They have everything that you need defensively to corral the ball, keep it in front of them, great speed to make plays on the back end. A phenomenal defense.
Yeah, they got everything you want. They're devoted to destruction when you talk about that Alabama defense. But Jalen Hurts, man, this guy, true freshman, man in that quarterback position, what he provides them is what my man Bart Scott likes to say is scheme versatility. They can be the battering ram running downhill, or they can be that dual threat quarterback guy who can utilize his legs as well as his arm to harm a defense.
And Sean White may be skipping around, and Cam Petway's going to try to give it a go, as Gus Malzahn told Ali LaForce earlier, but he also said Jeremy Johnson's going to get the start for this offense.
Jeremy Johnson gets the start. A year ago, 10 touchdown passes, 7 interceptions, but as everybody remembers, it was not a great year. He's not the run threat that normally we consider the Auburn quarterback to be. Less than 3 yards a carry on his career, 10 for 23 in this game a year ago. This game a year ago, Brian, you remember Derrick Henry, 46 carries for 271. They cannot let that happen to them again.
They have to have numbers like that on the offensive side of the ball if Auburn's going to win this ball game, averaging right at 297 per game on the ground. The big boys up front, they've got to win in the ditches. Make sure you play on Alabama's side of the line of scrimmage. That's going to be key. And whoever's playing quarterback, keep their uniforms clean.
But when Auburn's gotten the win in this rivalry, and I know Bama's had it more recently, but it's been so big. We talked about Philip Lutzenkirchen and that heroic catch, and of course you had the kick six, and in this case, Auburn can try to take down this #1 unbeatable team.
And Adam, even though the conference has been decided, Alabama will be in Atlanta next week. This will be a huge win for recruiting purposes if Gus Malzahn is able to find a way to beat the Tide.
No one's even remotely thinking about Atlanta at this point. It's about knocking off your arch rival. I think these defenses are a push. It's going to come down to Gus Malzahn, who's been lauded as this genius, this mastermind on the offensive side of the ball. He and his OC, Rhett Lashley, can they come up with something to confuse the Bama D?
It is the 9th straight year that one of these teams is number 1 or number 2 in the Iron Bowl, and it's been Alabama 8 of those times. There is already action underway involving SEC teams, a lot of intrastate action, not always SEC on SEC. Right now, Kentucky trying to spoil things for Louisville and the Heisman frontrunner Lamar Jackson, Rick.
Well, this has been a whale of a ball game. You can see Lamar Jackson trying to stay ahead in this Heisman race. He takes off to the races for a 19-yard touchdown. This puts him now with 20 rushing touchdowns. That puts him in elite category 30 passes and 20 touchdown runs. That joins Cam Newton in that.
But he can't play defense.
Yeah, he can't play defense. Steven Johnson pump fakes and finds Dorian Baker in the end zone. 35-yard touchdown. It's 38-31 currently Kentucky.
Wouldn't it be something if Kentucky can pull this off? Louisville trying to eye a New Year's Day bowl game. Lamar Jackson's also had 2 interceptions. This could take another dent in that Heisman race. We'll see. All right, meantime, BJ, Georgia trying to win another one for the SEC against the ACC.
Taking on the Rambling Wreck from Georgia Tech. It's all about that running game for Georgia. Sony Michel right up the middle. That looked pretty easy, didn't it? Marcus Marshall said, I can do that as well. Georgia Tech gets on the scoreboard. And here again, Nick Chubb with the handoff, but Georgia Tech comes right back. Late in the ball game, Quay Thursday looks like he wants to throw the rock, but he decides to head up the gut of the field, and he gets in. They reviewed that play.
Oh, boy.
Considered good, and we've got a hedge burner going on.
Yeah, between the hedges, no less. And just like 2 years ago, Georgia Tech might pull it off on the road in this in-state rivalry. One of them's going to come away 8-4. Well, LSU 7-4 to finish the regular season after their Thanksgiving night win as Darius Geis set a school record. They all chanted, "Keep Coach O," and they were all listening after their 6th straight win over Texas A&M. And we had a bit of a surprise in our leftovers. Got the battle line surprise on Arkansas with a big second-half comeback in their meeting. Games still to come from the SEC. It's the Egg Bowl in Oxford, plus Vanderbilt hosting number 17 Tennessee. And tonight in Tallahassee, the SEC East champs take on their in-state rival, Florida State. All right, plenty more on the line around the country right now. In Columbus, the game. BJ, LeBron on hand rooting for Ohio State against Michigan.
He would have been a pretty good tight end, right? I wonder if he could take some real hits, unlike on that NBA court. But Wilton Speight here to Khalid Hill for 6. That's the second touchdown of the day for Khalid. And that's the second pick of the day for Wilton Speight. Jerome Baker, the culprit there. And then Mike Weber leaps over the goal line for the score for the Buckeyes.
They were set up perfectly for that. Both defenses having huge interceptions in this game, including a pick 6 for Ohio State. A 3-point game there in the 4th quarter. Ohio State needs to win and have Penn State lose to go to the Big Ten title game. Virginia Tech, they're emotional, all right. Senior day, Sam Rogers wearing the number 25 for the Coastal champs.
He likes number 25 because here he goes in for an 8-yard touchdown, getting ready to play Clemson next week in Orlando for the championship of the ACC. Gerard Evans right here to Bucky Hodges, 42 yards for the touchdown, 35-0 at that time for Virginia Tech. They look like they're tuning up nicely, Brian.
Yes,
they are, and they keep going. 52-10 now the score, and of course it'll be against Clemson in that ACC championship game come next week. All right, you also have the war on I-4, USF needing a win here to stay alive for the East Division in the American, BJ.
Earlier was Marlon Mack on a long run, and those long runs, they can only take place if you get good blocking downfield. That's exactly what quarterback Quinn Flowers gets here. 62 yards later, it's a touch.
31-24 the score now. They need the win and then a loss tonight by Temple against East Carolina to take the division. We'll preview some of the big contests coming up today, and these guys will dissect the latest college football playoff rankings when we come back. You are watching AutoTrader College Football Today. Auburn's defense has not allowed a rushing touchdown in the last 32 quarters and has only allowed 10 passing TDs, tied for 10th in the FBS. You want touchdowns? Lamar Jackson's got touchdowns. You want him on the ground? You want him in the air? He can do it both. And he reaches out and gets it in to tie the game. Louisville and Kentucky knotted at 38 right now, midway through the 4th quarter. All right, it's time for the guys' picks now. And last week, Rick went 4-3. BJ, perfect 7-0.
Win with class.
In the face.
Opening up an almost insurmountable.
I got a pick'em class for you.
8-game lead as we take a look at our Saturday Spotlight presented by Chick-fil-A. Starting in Madison with the battle for Paul Bunyan's axe. Minnesota and number 6 Wisconsin. The Badgers have clinched the Big Ten West and can keep their playoff chances alive with a win. Meanwhile, the Golden Gophers featuring Rodney Smith, one of the more underrated running backs in the nation. BJ, who you got?
Get your hands off of my axe. That belongs to Wisconsin. They've won 12 straight, as you just said, but now going up against the team that's penalized the most in the Big Ten, that's the Gophers, and the least penalized team, the Badgers. The Badgers will win this ballgame. They need any stinking help from Iowa.
All right, well, they got it anyway. We stay in the Big Ten, 7th-ranked Penn State hosting Michigan State. Now, if Ohio State beats Michigan, the Nittany Lions will be playing for a spot in the conference title game. Meanwhile, the disappointing Spartans, they gave the Buckeyes all they could handle in that 1-point loss last week, Rick.
Spoiler alert right here. Sparty goes into Happy Valley with a chance to ruin the day for the Nittany Lions. Listen, L.J. Scott's run for over 280 yards in the last 2 weeks, 160 last week against Ohio State. I think they run the ball effectively, and Penn State struggles in 3rd down, and also trying to get to the big game. A lot of pressure on those Nittany Lions. I'm on Sparty.
Did you see those picks from last week?
I did. Okay, yeah.
BJ's always right. Is that the new rule?
At least for 1 week.
To the Pac-12, a top 25 showdown that'll decide the South. 9th-ranked Colorado hosting number 22 Utah. The Buffs can wrap up the division and cap one of college football's biggest turnarounds with a win. Meanwhile, an upset by the Utes would send USC to the conference title game.
Oh, they can forget about that upset. It's all about the rise is real. They're in Boulder, Colorado. This is a heck of a football team. They're physical up front. They run the rock with Phillip Lindsay, over 1,000 yards rushing. Quarterback Cepho Leafile, last week over 300 through the air, 100 on the ground. They're going to win this one. Go Buffs.
Yeah, first sellout in Boulder since 2008. And as for those resurgent Trojans, they'll face their top non-conference rival, Notre Dame, at the Coliseum. Clay Helton's team, one of the best in the country right now. They've reeled off 7 straight wins after that 1-3 start, including the blowout against Alabama. They could move into the top 10 with a win. Maybe the Fighting Irish, though, try to salvage a season that's been disappointing on and off the field, Rick.
This has been a great national rivalry. It lost a little luster because Notre Dame having an off year, but don't make any mistake. These two teams will go tooth and nail today. USC needs a win, then do a little scoreboard watching, as you pointed out. I think the Trojans have what it takes because even if they don't get to the South, they can still go to the Rose Bowl with a victory.
And Washington wants them to look as good as possible if they're the team they end up facing in that Pac-12 championship. We stick with rivalries. This one tonight in Tallahassee, number 15 Florida and 14th ranked Florida State. The SEC East champs will look to snap a 3-game skid against the Noles. Meanwhile, FSU's senior class can become the first in school history to go 4-0 against both Florida and Miami, BJ.
That is unbelievable, the fact that they can go 8-0 versus their rivals, Miami and Florida. Florida's defense, they're up to the task. We've talked about that. These guys are good, top 5 defense. They don't give up a ton of points, but can they force some turnovers versus DeAndre Francois and Dalvin Cook, all-time leading rusher there at Florida State? I'm going with the Gators. Gator chomp on. They're going to have just enough offense. The defense will put some points on the board. Florida wins.
All right, and Jimbo Fisher igniting them Seminoles fans, too, knowing that
how much money did he want?
He's going to be sticking around. All right, back to our game now as Rick takes a look at how Auburn hides the tight end in the red zone, presented by Verizon. You need to explain that.
Every now and then, when you get into rivalry games, there's what we call trickeration. You can see right here, we've got Jalen Harris lined up as a tackle. He's the tight end. He's an eligible receiver. They're going to explode from this unusual formation. 2 wide receivers will go to the left. You'll see the offensive tackle, the right tackle, moves out into a wide receiver position. The defense accordions outside and loses track. Goal number 85 right there, Brian. You got to communicate on defense.
Wait. You telling me you've driven all the way down the field. Now I'm winded, and now not only do I have to get the play call from the sideline, then I've got to decipher who's playing tackle. Is it a tight end or is it actually a tackle, right?
X's, O's, and arrows. All right, the countdown to kickoff in Tuscaloosa continues, and earlier, Allie LaForce speaking with Nick Saban.
Coach, as you know, the journey through the season presents new challenges each week, no matter how much success your team is having that season. What is the biggest challenge that Auburn poses for this game today?
Well, from our perspective, it's all how we finish and how you can sustain consistency. And I think the biggest challenge today is winning on the line of scrimmage. Their defensive line is very good and talented. their offense has run the ball consistently, and when they've been successful offensively, they've been able to run it effectively. So controlling the line of scrimmage is probably the number one thing.
It's senior day, and while the final chapter is still unwritten for this senior class, how can you describe what they've meant to this Alabama program?
Well, these guys have won, I think, 48 games since they've been here in a championship. So, but this has been a really, really good group in terms of how they've represented themselves, the university, our program. They've done well academically, and obviously they've had some significant accomplishments on the field, so we're very proud of them.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Did you hear him say, I think 48? I think he knows it's 48. This guy knows everything. Right. And there's not a better coach in the country in terms of preaching finish.
Yeah, and the game is not going to change. It's pretty simple. You heard him talk about line of scrimmage game. It's about blocking and it's about tackling. That's what's going to transpire today on the field.
Bama going for their first three-game winning streak in the Iron Bowl since the early 90s rather. This is the 81st Iron Bowl, dating back to the first game played in 1893. Alabama leads the series with a record of 44-35-1, including winning 6 of the last 8. So the Tide's RV Nation has traveled today, hoping to see their statewide bragging rights extended for another year. AutoTrader College Football Today is sponsored by AutoTrader. Find your perfect new, used, or certified car on AutoTrader. Garmin Fitness. Let's beat yesterday. And by Chick-fil-A. We didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich. The Tide has won 13 straight against ranked opponents, the longest streak since USC's run of 16 under Pete Carroll. Alabama's roll is also the 3rd longest of all time. A reminder, get the CBS Sports app for inside access to Auburn, Alabama, or your favorite team. From signing day to game day, you'll get instant coverage of every moment from every angle. Download the CBS Sports app now. So today on SEC A to Z, Gus Malzahn talks about a different kind of drive that he likes a lot. You got a sweet new ride.
You know, I've been looking forward to getting a sports car probably the last 2 years, and Christy wouldn't let me. She finally gave the okay, so I just went and got a real sports car.
That was a big move for you, because you're like also known as the Waffle House guy.
Yeah.
You know, you want to impress the players, you want to impress the recruits, but you also got to stay within character.
If you're going to do it, go ahead and do it. The big thing is recruits like it, our players like it, and I'm getting where I like it.
Big smile. Guy likes going up tempo. Now he's got the car. All right, time again now for Upon Further Review, and we pick up with our discussion of this week's college football playoff rankings, and let's get the guys' thoughts on how the top 10 will be affected by Michigan and Ohio State. Of course, they're playing in the 4th quarter right now, but so much can change, including for Penn State. Ohio State actually just missed the field goal, so they're still trailing by 3, getting down to the nitty-gritty here.
If Michigan wins this game, it will mean that only one team from the Big Ten will probably make the Final Four, which is great news if you're a Big 12 team down here at the bottom trying to get some help up there. They're probably going to need a Washington or a Clemson loss, but that does open the door for them, and it also may open a door for Colorado should they beat Washington.
Yeah, I'm looking at Colorado. They're sitting at the 9th position. They beat Utah this afternoon. They go to the Pac-12 championship game. If they can knock off Washington, you have to give them consideration and put them in the college football playoff. They went to Ann Arbor, and they were beating Michigan there in Ann Arbor until they lost their quarterback.
Now, if Ohio State comes back and wins this game, now and Penn State holds court today against Michigan State, then you've got a situation where Penn State and Wisconsin will play for the Big Ten title. I think Wisconsin would win that game, and now the question is, does Wisconsin get in because they're the Big Ten champions along with Ohio State, because that will knock out everybody here at the bottom.
That's going to turn the whole methodology of this college football playoff committee on its head if you have Ohio State sitting there and they haven't won their division, they haven't won the conference championship, but yet they get into the college football playoff.
And moreover, how about if they are sitting there outside and Penn State wins the Big Ten champ and you leave Penn State out and Ohio State and they played head-to-head?
Yep. Yeah, and for now, Washington needs some kind of loss as Rick gets set now to start tuning up his guitar for his musical take on the playoff committee's 2016 effort. BJ, some final thoughts here as we are moments away from kickoff in the Iron Bowl.
Well, we're talking about the turnovers, and you look at that Auburn defense. They've got 9 interceptions on this season. They've got to find a way to force Jalen Hurts into some trouble. You know, this young man, when he's blitzed, when you've been applying the pressure to him, his completion percentage goes down to 37%. So that's going to be the key. We saw LSU keep him under wraps for about 3.5 quarters. You got to do it for a complete game.
All right, we'll see what Jeremy Johnson can do if he can look like he did in the season opener 2 years ago. Meanwhile, we've seen Alabama miss some kicks in big games. You think of that one against LSU a few years ago. Ohio State's kicker. There's not that much wind. He's missed 2 short kicks so far in this game, and they are trailing by 3. There's been a lot of special teams woes for Ohio State in this game, the game. And Louisville against Kentucky, still tied at 38 apiece. Lamar Jackson doing all he can to beat their in-state rival and win the Heisman. Well, love him or hate him, the College Football Playoff Committee has the burden of picking the 4 playoff teams. Now with his own unique take on the committee's process in 2016 is our own balladeer, Rick Neuheisel, and our CFP chorus. That's us.
That's us. We love the ideal of a playoff. We'd get the 4 most deserving. But as the rankings are unveiled each week, the results, they're a little unnerving.
Who passes the eye test? Who has analytics? Quality wins, quality losses? Who has the fewest critics?
The CFP is 3 years old, and some folks thought it strange when numbers 2, 3, and 4 all lost one week and very little change.
But as the season begins winding down, one thing's abundantly clear. It doesn't matter which formula's used. Alabama's been there each year.
In the middle of a run for the ages as they watch the Crimson Tide. They top the charts in all categories, including championship pride. There's 3 large statues outside Bryant-Denny that provide a looming glare. How dare someone try to come to Tuscaloosa and take what's rightfully theirs? That's Bama. Hot damn Alabama. Every playoff panorama starts with Bama.
Better year for the Big Ten with 4 teams playing great. Who doesn't love that Michigan D and the youth at Ohio State?
Wisconsin's schedule seemed overly zealous, but they've done more than jump around. And James Franklin's got that Happy Valley back from feeling down.
Clemson's back for an encore. Washington needs to win. And the Big 12 champ is hoping to find there's room at the Final 4 end.
Bama's ahead of everybody else. From recruiting to knowing the rules. Who knew that it was legal for John Parker Wilson to practice like he's still in school? Their offense is Kiffin's tackle box with 5 stars in every compartment. And the only folks who have stopped their D is the campus police department. They're Bama. Hot damn Alabama. Every playoff panorama starts with Bama.
And as we say goodbye from New York City, from our little 3-man committee, we know War Eagle has a ton of pride, but it might take more to flatten the tide. A reminder that San Jose State and Fresno State's coming up over on CBS Sports Network. Game time for number 13 Auburn and number 1 Alabama's right after this message and a word from your local station. You have been watching AutoTrader College Football Today on CBS.